Lads, welcome back to the Kossi Arsenal podcast. My name is Kossi. Welcome back to a brand new video. So there's this proposed swap deal between Gabriel Jesus and Dusan Vlajovic. It's been making news for quite some time now. Dusan Vlajovic, just like Marcus Rashford, is a player that has been linked with Arsenal since January 2021. Ever since then, whenever there is a market open, he's linked with Arsenal. But of course, Dusan Vlajovic has issues with Juventus, especially when it comes to his contract. And probably that could be a reason why we are seeing more and more reports saying Vlahovic could leave Juve and Arsenal could capitalize. But I also want to say something. Arsenal are looking at three strikers, like really strongly, three strikers for the next year. That could be in the summer. Alexander Isak is up there, like in number one. And second on that list is actually Dusan Vlahovic. It's quite very interesting. Vlahovic is there, and then you have, Gyökeres. But according to the reports I've seen, Arsenal have reservations. They have issues with Victor Gyökeres, and that is why Manchester City are big on him. Manchester United are big on him, and we're actually not big on him. We have reservations. We have problems with him. Which problems? We'll talk about them, but I don't really know. I mean, this guy is a goal machine. If Arsenal really have a problem with Europe's biggest goal scorer right now, then I just can't understand it. But let's talk about Gabriel Jesus. Let's talk about Victor Vlahovic, and then we'll go into Gyökeres, and we'll also go into Alexander Isak as well. So the reports are coming from Italy, and they're saying that Dusan Vlahovic is having a bit of friction between him and Juventus when it comes to renewing his contract. And that has prompted a couple of clubs to show their interest. If he fails to renew, a couple of clubs are saying, we can come in and we can take him. Arsenal is one of those clubs, as we know that Mikel Arteta has always been, quite a fan of Dusan Vlahovic. Actually, I think, apart from Vlahovic's agent not picking up Arsenal's calls, there is a big possibility that Vlahovic could have been an Arsenal player already, post 2021. I think our interest in him has always been there. I think we have followed him for quite some time. And hell boy, I think he's a good striker. I think he's a good number 9. I think he's so different from what we have right now, and he's so much better than what we have right now. Like, with all due respect, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I think Vlahovic is better than Kai, he's better than Gabriel Jesus, he's better than all those guys that we are, sticking up top as number 9s. But could a swap deal happen? Number one. But secondly, should we enter such a deal? Should we enter the deal? Yes. For me, yes. The problem with Gabriel Jesus right now is that you're not going to get the 45 million you invested in him earlier on. And that's the same problem with Vlahovic and Juve. Juve injected about 60 to 70 million in the, purchase of Dusan Vlahovic. And I remember then in January, Arsenal went in there. We wanted to pay 60. They refused. We wanted to pay around 65, 68. And we didn't get the deal done. And eventually the player moved to Juventus, right? He stayed in Italy. Juve, after paying 70 million across 5 years, 8 years, I really don't care. They are not going to get anyone that is going to give them anything close to that value. So the best thing to do is to look into, and of course they have to replace him. If Vlahovic goes for maybe 25 million, you've got to replace him, and the striker market is really expensive. So for me, this is a swap deal. I doubt it will happen because of reasons that we'll talk about. Mikel Arteta and his obsession with the players he got from Man City. But if it were to happen, I bet it would be a very good deal. I really think it would be a very good deal. I mean, here is a guy, Gabriel Jesus. Things have not worked out at Arsenal, but he's still a good player. There is a player in there. And I think if he goes to the Italian Serie A, if he goes to a club like Juve, maybe, I'm just saying maybe, he could, catch lighting, at the Porto. And maybe we could see a different Gabriel Jesus. Maybe the Premier League was never supposed to be his destination. Maybe, right? Dusan Vlajovic on the other side is a young player. Not really a young player because he's in his prime now. He's a player in his prime, but he's got a lot to prove. He's got a lot to prove. Like, this is a guy that was on fire before Victor Gyökeres. He was on fire at the same time as Erling Haaland, and he was on fire at the same time as Alexander Isak. Both Haaland and Isak have gone to the Premier League and they have made generational, not really generational, but I think Haaland has made history and Isak has established himself as a good Premier League player. And Vlahovic has declined massively from during his time at Juventus. So I'm thinking, if you're Dusan Vlahovic, this is your time to go and say, I want something. I want to, I want to revive my career. I want to prove a point. I think he's got a fire in his belly. I think he's got to prove a point. And even for Serbia, you have Alexander Mitrovic, a guy that never really played any meaningful football in the Premier League. Alexander Mitrovic is outperforming Vlahovic for Serbia. Like, that is not really good. If you have Dusan Vlahovic, that is not good for you. So a swap deal for me would be good, and I would buy into it straight away, 100%. Now, could it happen? Arsenal and Juventus have always had those, I don't know, it's kind of rubbings in the corridor. I just don't understand. Deals between Arsenal and Juve, yeah, they never seem to materialize. When we want a player, he ends up at Juventus. If we want a player from Juventus, we never get him. We never get them. And probably it's the same with Arsenal. But I think both teams will look at it in this way. If Arsenal if Arsenal are willing to let go of Gabriel Jesus in the summer, and Juve are willing to let go of Vlahovic in the summer, and we get the right valuation between those two, yeah, it's a deal that could happen. But the major reason and the major factor as to why this deal is in jeopardy and as to why this deal might not happen is Mikel Arteta. I have a problem with Mikel and him thinking that the players he got from Manchester City are untouchable and they just have to be part of the squad. I mean, no problem. They're his selections. He loves them. Good players as well. But I just don't think about it in the same way. I just don't think that we should be overly obsessed with Jesus and Sterling and all these players. Because he was talking about him and was saying Jesus is a big asset to us and we would love to keep him. He's a big asset. Maybe he is. But he's a big asset? Really? Why am I struggling to believe that? Why am I struggling to believe that Gabriel Jesus is actually a big asset? Because for me, I don't think he is a big asset to us. Zinchenko, Sterling, and Jesus, those are the high men, I would say high profile names at the club right now that are not big assets at the moment. So it's not a big asset to the club, right? Now, Arsenal also have reservations for other players. Isak is like top number one on the list, but of course we know the price for Isak and whether Newcastle will sell, that's another big question. And I think Victor Gyökeres is one that Arsenal have looked at, but reports are saying, we have questions about him. What questions? I don't know. I don't know, guys. Are they afraid of his injury record? Because, yes, he had a knee surgery. Maybe that. But apart from that, does he score many penalties? I don't know. I don't know why they're saying that Arsenal have issues with Victor Gyökeres. I bet we will find out. I bet we'll find out if he goes to Man City or if he goes to Manchester United. That's when we'll find out why Arsenal never tried to sign it. But at the moment, looks like a swap for Gabriel Jesus and Vlahovic is one of those stories dominating the media.